that there is a genuine benefit from this particular arrangement, the constitutional monarchy, and I think it has good long-term benefits.
For decades, Princess and has been the one royal who never bothered to perform for the cameras. No fake smiles, no soft focus interviews, no carefully managed image campaign. She says what she means, and more importantly, she doesn't say what she doesn't mean. So when royal watchers talk about a cold relationship between and Camilla, it's not gossip pulled from nowhere. It's something that's been quietly visible for over 20 years, if you know where to look. And once you start looking, you can't stop noticing it. It's in the handshakes that last half a second too short. It's in the seating charts. It's in who stands next to whom in the official photograph, and who ends up at the edge of the frame. None of it is an accident in this family. Every inch of a royal photograph is planned, and the people who understand that best are the ones who've spent their entire lives inside it. Today we're breaking down what's really going on between these two women, what's actually been documented, and why some royal commentators believe the tension is far from over. Let's start at the beginning, because you can't understand this relationship without understanding where it started, and it did not start well. Princess Anne was close to Diana. Not performatively close, genuinely close, in the way royal siblings-in-law rarely are. When Diana's marriage to Charles collapsed publicly and painfully in the 1990s, and watched it happen from inside the family, not from a tabloid headline, she saw the toll it took. And Camilla, as has been reported extensively for over 2 decades, was central to why that marriage fell apart. That's not speculation. Charles himself confirmed the affair in a televised interview in 1994. Think about what that means for how and would have experienced the years that followed. She wasn't reading about her brother's marriage falling apart in a newspaper like the rest of the world. She was watching it happen at family dinners, at Christmas gatherings, at the events where everyone has to smile for the cameras regardless of what's happening behind closed doors. That's a very different kind of knowing than the public ever had access to. So when Camilla began her slow, deliberate rehabilitation into public royal life in the years after Diana's death, and was never one of her champions. Royal biographers have noted for years that while other family members eventually softened toward Camilla and kept a visible distance, she attended what she had to attend. She was polite where politeness was required. But warmth? That was never really part of the picture. If you go back and watch footage from royal engagements through the 2000s and 2010s, body language experts have repeatedly pointed to the same pattern. Anne's interactions with Camilla Reed is correct, not close. Now, before we go further into this, if you're new here, hit subscribe, because we cover royal family stories like this multiple times a week, and you don't want to miss what's coming. And if you're already with us, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who care about this stuff as much as we do. Okay, let's get back into it. So fast forward to 2005. Camilla and Charles marry. It's a civil ceremony, deliberately low-key, compared to a full royal wedding, in part because the palace knew public opinion toward Camilla was still fragile, and attended as expected. But what's interesting, and what royal commentators have pointed to again and again, is how measured her public support was. Compared to some other family members, there was no glowing public statement, no visible enthusiasm, just presence, which in royal terms can sometimes say more than words. It's worth pausing here, because the contrast matters. Some royals who had every reason to be cautious about Camilla went further than duty required. Warmer quotes, more visible affection, small gestures meant to signal acceptance to the public. And did none of that. She showed up, she did what was required, and she left it there. In an institution built on subtle signaling, that restraint was its own kind of statement. Then comes the real turning point. Queen Elizabeth II's death in September 2022, followed by Charles's coronation in May 2023. This is where things get genuinely interesting, because it's the first time we see hard, symbolic decisions being made about where Camilla actually sits in the hierarchy of the family, and how Anne appears to feel about it. At the coronation, Camilla was crowned queen consort, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a piece deeply associated with Queen Elizabeth II. For Camilla's supporters, this was the final seal of legitimacy on a decades-long journey from other woman to queen. But royal historians have pointed out something worth sitting with. That same tiara is expected to eventually pass to Catherine, Princess of Wales, when she becomes queen consort herself one day. Which means Camilla's moment at that altar was never really permanent. It was alone, symbolically speaking, and everyone in that room understood it. There's something almost poetic about that detail, if you think about it. Every tiara in that vault has worn more than one head. Every title has belonged to more than one woman. In the monarchy, nothing is truly owned. It's only held, temporarily, until it's someone else's turn. Camilla knows that as well as anyone. So does and so, arguably, does every person in that family who has ever had to hand something back. And ever the institutionalist played her role at the coronation exactly as duty required. She carried the sword of state. She rode beside the king's carriage in her role as gold stick in waiting. It was, by any measure, a flawless public performance of duty. But royal watchers have noted that duty and personal warmth are two very different things and she has built an entire 70-year public career on separating the two. So where does the undermining narrative actually come from? Let's be clear about what we know versus what's speculation, because this matters. What we know, and has consistently kept her public distance from Camilla for over 2 decades. What we know, patronage redistribution since Queen Elizabeth's death, has been an ongoing, documented process, with hundreds of charitable roles being reassigned across working royals. What we know, William and Catherine were granted the authority to issue royal warrants in 2025, a real, publicly reported shift of symbolic power toward the next generation. What we know, and remains, by most royal commentators' accounts, one of the most trusted and hardest-working members of the family, with a level of institutional credibility that gives her real influence behind closed doors. What's speculation, and this is where royal watchers differ, is how much of that institutional shift is being actively steered by and herself, versus simply being the natural evolution of a monarchy preparing for its next generation. Some commentators argue, and decades of quiet, discipline, and hands-on work make her uniquely positioned to influence how patronages, ceremonial roles, and symbolic responsibilities are being reallocated. Others push back on that, pointing out and has never publicly positioned herself as anyone's rival and has spent her career actively avoiding palace politics, not engaging in them. Both things can be true at once, which is what makes this story genuinely interesting rather than just tabloid noise, and doesn't need to give interviews or make public statements to have influence. Her currency inside that family has always been credibility, earned through 70 years of turning up, doing the unglamorous work, and never putting a foot wrong publicly. That kind of credibility carries real weight in private family conversations, even if it never once shows up in a headline. Consider how rare that actually is inside this family. Nearly every senior royal has, at some point, generated a headline they'd rather forget, and, by contrast, has spent decades being described by royal commentators as the hardest working member of the family, year after year, in official engagement counts. That's not charisma. That's not popularity. That's just relentless consistency. And inside an institution as image-conscious as this one, consistency is its own form of power. And then there's the piece that royal commentators keep coming back to, Diana. As the 30th anniversary of her death approaches in 2027, there's been a noticeable rise in documentaries, retrospectives, and renewed public interest in her legacy. Royal watchers have pointed out that this kind of anniversary moment tends to reshape public sentiment, often reigniting sympathy for Diana and, by extension, scrutiny of Camilla's position. And who was close to Diana and has never hidden that fact, is seen by some commentators as someone who may feel a quiet, personal obligation to protect how that period of royal history is remembered, separate from any question of rivalry with Camilla at all. It's a strange kind of pressure when you think about it, a milestone anniversary that nobody in that family can avoid, arriving right on schedule, dragging 3 decades of complicated history back into the public conversation whether anyone inside the palace wants it there or not. Anniversaries don't ask permission. And the closer 2027 gets, the more that old story is likely to resurface, with or without anyone's help. So what does this actually mean for Camilla going forward? Realistically, nothing dramatic or immediate. Camilla's position as queen consort is not under any real institutional threat. That's simply not how the monarchy works, and any headline suggesting otherwise isn't telling you the truth. But what royal commentators are watching closely is the slower, quieter stuff. How patronages continue to be reallocated, how the historical narrative of this era gets shaped in official records and retrospectives, and how much weight and decades of credibility carry in rooms the public never sees. That's really what this story comes down to. Not a dramatic confrontation, not a public falling out, but a decades-long, ice-cold, deeply British kind of tension that plays out entirely in silence, body language, and the small decisions nobody announces, and has never needed to raise her voice to make her position known. She just doesn't show up warmly for people she's never warmed to. And after everything the family went through in the 90s, it's not hard to understand why Camilla might be one of those people. And maybe that's the real lesson buried in all of this. In most families, disagreements get shouted, resolved, or forgotten. In this one, they get absorbed, folded quietly into decades of correct handshakes and perfectly timed photographs, never resolved, never spoken about, just carried generation after generation behind a palace gate the rest of us will never get to walk through. So that's the real story behind the tension between and Camilla. Not confirmed drama, but decades of quiet distance that royal watchers believe still shapes how this family operates. Behind closed doors, what do you think? Is an actively influencing things, or is she just staying true to who she's always been? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because we've got more of these deep dives on the royal family coming very soon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.